Okay, we now proceed to our next topic, which is about the graph of functions. So the graph of function, let me read this one. The graph of a function f is just the graph of the equation y equals to the function of x. It consists of those points in the Cartesian plane whose coordinates x, y are pairs of input-output. So the input is x and the output is y. Values of f. Thus, xy lies, or this point xy, lies on the graph of f provided x is in the domain of f. So, babalik ulit tayo dun sa discussion natin sa domain. And y equals to the function of x. In simple terms, yung pag-graph ng function is just representing the curve or representing the polynomial, if it's a polynomial function, representing the polynomial function as a graph or as a curve in the Cartesian plane. So we are all familiar with the Cartesian plane, I guess, or I wish. Okay, the Cartesian plane is just this rectangular plane. This is the x-axis and the y-axis, and all points within this plane is described as xy, wherein x is the distance along the x-axis from the origin, and y is the distance along the y-axis from the origin. Okay, so that's it. And usually, maybe when you were in high school, we do graphing by, or you do graphing by using a table of values, like you tabulate the values of x and the function of x, and you do it like that, you assign values. But in this course, we'll try to minimize the use of these tables. So it's much better for us to graph the curve by interpreting the behavior of the curve, by looking at how the function is expressed. Okay, so we'll do it like that. Now, most functions are just, now the graph of each functions mostly ay medyo pare-pareho lang, na iba lang yung mga kote niya, but we can, there is a general form or a general parang general na mukha ng isang or ng mga graph. Okay, let me show that to you. These are the common itsura. Commonly, ganito yung mga itsura ng mga graph. Or kung medyo mas complicated pa siya, especially mga rational functions, then medyo mas marami pa siyang curve. Okay, if it's just a constant, syempre it's just a straight line. So if y is equal to c, that's just a horizontal line. Meaning, whatever is your value for x, the value of y will still remain constant because y is a constant. Y is equal to c. So wala siyang ibang, hindi siya nag-change. Wala siyang ibang value, kundi c lang. So ito yung value ng c. Okay? Now we also have this. If it's y is equal to x, that means kung ano yung value ng x, yun din yung value ng y. So if x is 1, y is also 1. If x is 2, y is also 2. So common sense lang, no? Ayan siya. So this is a linear graph. O, linya lang siya. Linya lang siya. So kung maglagay tayo dito ng x plus 1, meaning that mag-increase ng 1 si y, diba? So if x is 1, y is 2. Ganyan. So meaning, andito na yung graph natin. So ganun pa rin yung general itsura niya, pero the location and its placement on the graph or on the Cartesian plane is slightly different. Now, this is the equation of a parabola. This is a parabola opening upward. So y is equal to x squared, meaning for every value of x, for every value of y, there are two values of x. Ayan, for this value of y, let's say this is y is equal to 1, meron siyang dalawang value ng x. X is positive 1 and also negative 1. Yun yung interpretation ng function or ng equation. Okay? So, ganito yung maging forma niya. Now, if you add, you add a constant here or this becomes a trinomial, the same pa rin yung sura niya, but its location in the graph is slightly different. So, for example, you add something here, So, no, let's say plus 1 here. So, tataas lang siya ng isa. Parang ganun ba? Ganun. Or if this is a trinomial, maybe, andito na siya. Pero, its form is still the same. So, for square root, eto siya. Ito yung graph natin. So, I just use the positive values of the square root of x. Usually kasi we are tempted to use positive and negative values. But, by the way, we are talking about functions. Remember, if we have y squared is equal to x, y is not a function of x. No, sorry, yeah. Because meron tayong dalawang value ng y for every value of x. Diba dapat pag function isa lang yung value. But in this case, since we are like saying that this equation is a function. So if we are saying that this is a function, then we will not consider the negative values of the square root of x. Because kung naglagay tayo ng negative values, this is not a function anymore. Diba? Kasi dalawa na yung mag-intersect. Okay, so if we define y as a function of x and y is equal to the square root of x, then we say na ito lang i-consider natin, the positive values of x. Because this is a function. Okay? Yan. Yun lang naman. Di ka galit. Anyway, but if mag-graph tayo ng y squared equal to x, if we discuss about analytic geometry, the graph of that is like this. But since we are looking at functions, half lang yung titingnan natin. Anyway, this will be sent to you as a note, so you may just look at these graphs. Okay, so absolute value, this is the form, and so on. Okay, this one, for y is equal to 1 over x, the graph behaves like this. If you notice, look at the positive values of x. For positive values of x, for very large values, the value of y approaches 0, right? Remember na, for example, this point here is x. Unya, the value of y is, let's say, 0 kasi nasa x-axis siya. So, kung titingnan nyo, sa large values of x, the value of y approaches 0. Okay? For very small values of x, meaning yung value ng x mo is close na to the origin. This is the origin, di ba? So, kung yung value ng x mo ay nilalapit natin sa origin, the value of y approaches positive infinity. So, anong ibig sabihin nun? That is just the interpretation of this graph. Of this function. Remember that x cannot be equal to 0. X cannot be equal to 0 because 1 over 0 is infinity. Precisely, that is what is shown here. Yung x, hindi siya pwedeng mag-cross sa y-axis kasi hindi siya pwedeng ma-0. Pwede siyang mag-approach sa x-axis, meaning lumiit yung gap dito. Remember these are the values of x. Pwedeng lumiit yung value ng x, but it cannot be equal to 0. So, a-approach lang siya, but it will not cross. Tawag doon, asymptotic. Hindi asymptomatic. That's different. COVID yun. This is asymptotic, meaning the curve is asymptotic to the y-axis. Okay? Or the y-axis is an asymptote of this function. Okay? Ganun din dito. For very large values of x, again, we are thinking of infinity as large or big numbers. Okay? For the very large values of x, this value that approaches 0, right? For example, 1 over 10. Let's say 10 is a large number. 1 over 10, that's 0.1. Then 1 over 100, so that's a larger number. That's 0.01. Then 1 over 1,000, that's 0.001. If you notice, lumalaki yung denominator, mas lumiliit yung value niya. Nag-approach siya to 0. So, if we divide it by a very large number, that is infinity, undefined number, but a very large number. So, you could imagine that the value of that also very, very close to 0 na. Hindi ko binilang yung 0, but you know what I mean. Diba? So, ganun yung ibig sabihin ng graph. So, ibig sabihin, etong mga curves na to are just reflection of the function. And the function itself tells the story. Yun yung gusto nating ma-interpret ngayon. So I hope you get my point, please. Now let's try to take a look at this. Importante yung domain. So let's try to describe the domains of this function. First, sa first function, ano yung domain natin? These are just all real numbers, right? You can input any values here. Wala siyang restriction, diba? For any value of x, merong value of y. So therefore, yung domain natin, that would be the domain, ang pangit ng pagkakadrawing. The domain, ganyan na lang, stylized din na lang. The domain of the function are just all real numbers. And the range of the functions are also all real numbers. Okay? So, para di masyadong matagal yung video, pipili lang tayo ng ilan. Then, you just answer the others. How about here? Our domain, dito, what would be our domain here? So, eto siya, naka-square root na siya. So, therefore, we cannot make this negative. Okay? Pwede siyang 0. So, therefore, pwedeng 4 yung x, pero di siya pwedeng mas tumaas sa 4. Right? It cannot be greater than 4 because if it's greater than 4, that would be, this value would become negative. Diba? So, i-describe muna natin dito that x cannot be greater than 4. So, that would be, it should be less than or equal to 4. So, the domain here is numbers less than or equal to 4. Diba? So, let's say, try natin. That, 4. Kung 4 to siya, that would become 0. Diba? Square root of 0. Then, if this is 3, that would be 8 minus 6, the square root of 2. Diba? And so on. Pwede siyang 1. Pwede din siyang 0. That would be square root of 8. Pwede din siyang negative 1. That would be 8 plus 2. So, square root of 10. And so on. Now, let us describe the range. Ano yung mga range niya? What would you notice the range? First, we cannot assign, para dito sa ni-describe ko kanina, y is equal to square root of x, yung graph niya is like this lang because we are defining it as a function, so we are just looking at the positive values. So therefore, we won't be considering the negative values of this function. So therefore, off limit size and negative nito. Okay, so yung range niya are the range is values greater than 0. Okay, so yung domain natin, our domain, the domain of the function, dapat, this is supposed to be stylized D. The domain of the function are just values greater than or equal to 4. So, pwedeng ito kapag kasulat natin or pwede din interval. So, paano kaya yung interval? Greater than or equal to 4. How do we write the interval? So, yung lower natin is 4. Oh no, sabi ko nga, less than. So, that would be from negative infinity, right? Then, kasala yung 4. So, close tayo, ganyan. So, pwedeng by interval, we write it like that. Dito naman, pwedeng by interval, negative infinity to positive infinity. Kasi all real numbers. Okay? Anyway, dito tayo sa likod. Ito, that's 1. This is 1 over x minus 1. So, ano yung domain natin dito? Tingnan natin yung restriction. The restriction here is x cannot be equal to 1, right? So, therefore, the domain here, isulat ko na lang. Kagad. The domain of this function is just all real numbers except 1. Di pwede yung 1. So, how do we write the intervals of that? So, kung all real number, so from negative infinity up to 1. Diba? Pero di kasala yung 1. So, parenthesis siya. So, negative infinity up to 1. O, pwede. Yeah. and 1, di kasali yung 1, up to positive infinity. Ganon. So, kaya natin isulat ganyan. Okay? Okay, paano naman yung range? So, yung range niya, it could be positive. Sulat ko na lang ganyan. Yung range niya, it could be positive and negative. Diba? So, kung halimbawa, you put values of x that will make the denominator negative. So, therefore, the value of this will be negative. That's 1 over a negative number. Negative. Okay, mamaya I'll show you an example. So, that's it. Okay, let's try. Okay, let's call this problem 10 dash, I think it's, let me check, 10 dash 10. This is 10 dash 10. Just continue this, just describe the domain. And ito naman, this is problem 10 dash 11. Sketch the graph of y equals 1 plus square root of x minus 4. Okay. The first helpful thing that we need to do is first we describe the domain. So that we will have an idea kung ano yung mga values niya or ano yung mga restrictions niya. So ang restriction niya dito is x cannot be less than 4, right? Kasi kung mag less than 4 yung 8, masi-zero, mani-negative to siya. So kung ma-negative siya, di na siya pwede square root. Okay? Okay? So therefore, i-note muna natin dito that x or the values of x should be greater than or equal to 4. Okay? So, by the way, iniiwasan natin yung paggamit ng tables. So, as much as possible, di tayo magta-table dito. We'll be interpreting the function para mag-graph. So therefore, we'll be expecting, since x is greater than or equal to 4, or should be greater than or equal to 4 because of this restriction, dapat yung mga values or yung location ng graph natin is from dito. Wait ha, if this is 1 unit, 2, 3, ayusin natin. Okay, 2, 3, 4, and greater lang. So therefore, yung graph natin dapat nandito lang. Right? Or nandito lang area. Diba? So, wala tayong values dito kasi di pwede yung x dito. So, walang curve dyan na magkukross. So, andito lang yung curve natin. Okay? Nakuha? So, that's why we need to describe the domain. Now, in terms of the range, since we'll be extracting only the positive values. So, this should always be positive. Plus 1. So, meaning, pataas lang siya galing sa y equal to 1. Asan ba yung y equal to 1? Ito siya. If this is y equal to 1, or this is 0, 1. Yun yung coordinate niya, di ba? 0 ang distance sa x, tapos 1 yung distance sa y. So, from 0, ang x niya, y sa 1. 1 sa y. Ano ba yan? So, ito yung boundary niya. By the way, nilagyan ko na ng linya pero di siya kasali sa graph. So, meaning, yung graph natin is galing dyan. So, nandito lang, nasa positive lang. So, at least meron tayong idea kung ano yung itsura ng graph. Diba? So, ganun. Ganun lang. So, ano ba yung graph ng y is equal to square root of x? If you're familiar with this, the graph kanina doon sa kabilang page, ito yun siya. Ayan. Yung graph niya is just like that. So therefore, we'll be expecting na ganyan yung graph niya. And I think by now, I'll be expecting na ito yung graph niya. Probably. I mean, ito. This would be the graph of that function. Okay? By the way, yung pagka-curve niya kasi, mas ma-describe natin siya when we, mag-discuss na tayo sa calculus or we start learning about calculus. Okay? Now, let us just look at the values of when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 0. Pwede pala. So, when x is equal to 0, Di pwede. X equal to 1, di pwede, di pwede, di pwede. Pero x equal to 4, maging 0, so y is equal to 1. So dito talaga siya mag-start. Okay? So, meaning, correct na pala yung assumption ko. Ito. So, yung graph niya is like this. Okay. So, yun lang. So, to check, let us try to use a graphing tool, Desmos. Pero, as much as possible, do not use Desmos kung di nyo pa in-interpret ng yung graph. This is just to check kung di pa ninyo ini-interpret yung function. Pero, to check kung tama ba yung interpretation natin, that would be square root of x minus 4. Ready? Correct. Ayan. So, ganun na yung ano niya. Yung yung graph niya. So, ang gagawin natin, unahin natin yung pag-analyze at saka yung pag-sketch by ourselves before we check through or using Desmos. Let's try another one. Yung Desmos, that is just to verify, to check. Mas okay kasi na yung naiintindihan natin kasi ito yung mga crucial na mga topic sa calculus that you need to learn para mas maintindihan nyo yung topic. And if you are a bit confused right now, that's okay. Ganun talaga. Expect na itong mga topic until the end of the bridging will be more complicated than those in the previous 2 weeks of our bridging class. So let's call this problem 10-12. Sketch the graph of the function. Okay. Take a look at the function. The function is a rational function, meaning meron tayong expression sa numerator and sa denominator. So, i-define muna or describe muna natin yung domain. Sana yung domain dito? X cannot be equal to 1. So, that is our domain. Di siya pwedeng maging 1. So, therefore, we expect na wala tayo, yung graph natin will not cross x equal to 1. So, anong ibig kong sabihin? Let me, okay, draw the Cartesian first. Okay, let's draw that. Then, asan yung y is equal to 1? If ito yung mga units natin, let's say, this is 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units. So, ito yung mga calibration natin along the x-axis. Ito naman yung sa y-axis. So, yung x equal to 1, ito siya, di ba? Lahat to dito. This is the distance ng x. Then, 1 unit siya. So, lahat ng point dito is x equal to 1. So, maglagay tayo ng boundary dyan. So, let me just use this color. And eto siya. So, we are saying na di siya pwede dito. Bawal siyang mag-cross dyan. Wait ha, ayusin muna natin. Napuputol yung line. Di siya pwedeng mag-cross dyan. Okay? Yan yung unang restriction natin. So, paano natin kaya i-graph to siya? How do we analyze this? Okay? First, kung magkapareho tayo ng degree, much better if we divide this first. We do that if the numerator is greater or equal to the degree of the denominator. Okay. Pero kung less yung degree dito, kung less yung degree ng numerator sa denominator, then we leave it at that. Okay? So, divide muna tayo. How do we divide this by this? So, pwede tayong mag-long division. That's negative x plus 2 divided by x minus 1. You can do that. Okay? Pwede din tayong mag-manipulate na lang. How do we do manipulation? I-manipulate na lang natin. So, I would like to see x minus 1 in the numerator. Okay? So, anong pwede natin gawin? That's 2. Or I could factor out negative first. Negative x minus 2 over x minus 1. Or, I could rewrite this to x minus 1 over x minus 1. Diba? X minus 1 is just x minus 2. Okay? Then, I could just separate this to negative x minus 1. Then this, maging positive na siya, plus 1. So, you can just check that this value is the same as this value. Pareho din naman siya. Negative x plus 1 plus 1. Yan. So, that would be 2 minus x. Ganun pa rin. Okay? Okay, so what will happen here? That would be equal. So, that is just manipulation kung ayaw nyo mag-division or long division. So, that means the numerator has two terms, this term and this term, and both terms are divided by x minus 1. So, I could rewrite this as negative x minus 1 over x minus 1 plus 1 over x minus 1. Okay? So, that would be negative 1 plus 1 over x minus 1. Ayan. So, this would be now our f of x. F of x is equal to negative 1 plus 1 over x minus 1. Okay, ano ibig sabihin nito? How do we interpret this? So, if we go back to the usual graphs of a line, ito siya, it resembles this. Okay, yung pagkaiba lang niya is wala tayong minus 1 dito, tsaka hindi tayo nag-minus 1 din. Wala tayong minus 1 dito, wala din tayong minus 1 dito. Pero, generally, ito yung magiging itsura niya. So, we will be looking at this form of the graph. Okay? So, pwede tayong mag-assign ng values, pwede din tayong mag-set by region if you like. Okay? So, how do we do that? First, since x cannot be equal to 1, so, asymptotic siya dito. So, meaning, ibig sabihin nun, yung graph natin dito, yung i-approach niya is, instead na yung y-axis, yung x equal to 1 yung i-approach niya. So, I'll be expecting na ganito yung itsura niya dito. Ganyan, tsaka ganyan. Okay? Okay? What else? What will happen if x are large numbers, either positive or negative? Ulitin ko yung tanong ko. What will happen if this value or x is a very large number, positive or negative? Okay? For example, 1 million. X is 1 million. So, 1 over 1 million minus 1. So, that's 1 over 999,999. So, 1 over 999,999 is a very, 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 very small number, or this value approaches 0. In other words, for values of x that is very large, this value approaches 0. And if this value approaches 0, maka-cancel out lang siya, ito lang yung magpe-prevail. Yung f of x daw is equal to negative 1. Did you get me? Huh? Ulitin natin na. For very large values of x, this value will approach to 0. So, if this value will approach to 0, yung magpe-prevail na lang is eto na lang. Yung function is equal to negative 1. So, for very large value of x, for very large values of x, positive, we're talking about positive, for very large values of x, yung mga values na yan, yung value ng function is just negative 1. So, therefore, the value of the function will approach negative 1. So, asan negative 1? Ito yung negative 1 sa baba. Ayan. This distance is negative 1 along the f of x axis. Okay? So therefore, for very large values of x, it will approach that. So yan yung magiging graph natin. It will approach 1 and will approach negative 1 dito. Kuha. Syempre, kailangan natin saan siya sa x-axis mag-cross. What value of x will it cross when y is equal to 0? So, pwede natin isolve. When y is equal to 0. So, we are solving for the intercepts. So, let's look at the intercepts. So, for x-intercepts, when we say x-intercept, that means those are the points that crosses the x-axis. That means y is equal to 0, right? So for x-intercept, y is equal to 0. So when y is equal to 0, the function will become, eto na lang gamitin natin, 2 minus x over x minus 1 equal to 0. So therefore, 2 minus x is equal to 0. So x is equal to 2. So therefore, the x-intercept is x equal to 2. So dito siya magko-cross. This is 2, 0. How about the y-intercept? Dito na lang ulit. For y-intercept, saan siya magko-cross sa y-axis? So, para siya mag-cross sa y-axis, dapat x is equal to 0. Or eto, when you look at the y-axis, sa y-axis, walang value yung x. Okay? Or x is equal to 0. So, when x is equal to 0, what will happen? So, f of x, which is, yun yung dinescribe natin as y, that would be 2 minus 0 over 0 minus 1. So, pila na siya? 2 over negative 1 or negative 2. So, meaning the y-intercept is negative 2. Asan yung negative 2? Ito, 1, 2. So, this is 0, negative 2. So, that means it will cross this. It will also cross this. Okay? So, we know now that for very large values of x, the curve will approach this line, right? Which is y is equal to, or f of x equal to negative 1. I have described that kanina or explained to you that kanina. Okay, so therefore, yung pagkakagraph natin is from here, it will approach that line. Okay? Dito din, sabi natin, di ba, it cannot be equal or x cannot be equal to negative or to positive 1. So therefore, it will just approach positive 1. Ayan. So meaning, it will approach, the curve will behave like that. There. Okay? Now, dito sa kabila, again, for very large values of x, pag negative siya, it will still approach this line, right? Let's say 1 over negative 1 million minus 1. So that's 1 over negative 1 million 1. Diba? And that value is very, very, very close to 0. So meaning, wala din siya, maka-cancel out din siya. So, eto pa rin yung magpe-prevail. Function of x is equal to negative 1. So therefore, it will, for large negative value, it will still approach this line, which is y is equal to negative 1. Okay, it will approach that line. Medyo calculus na to siya, so, but not yet. So, expect na lang sa calculus. And also, for negative numbers, for values less than 1, what will happen? For values less than 1, or if this value will approach to 0 from this side, of course, what will happen? This will become a very large number. So, the function of x becomes a very large number na negative. Nakuha nyo? 1 over a very large negative value, that would be equal, I'm sorry. That's 1 over a very small negative value. A very small negative value that results to a very large value. Would you agree? Diba, we know that 1 over 0 is infinity. Again, we are trying to redirect our definition of infinity to a very large number. Okay? So 1 over 0 infinity is infinity. So meaning we say that 1 over a number close to 0 is equal to close to infinity. Wait, close to infinity din, di ba? Actually, we are already touching about limits. So, ano number over a negative number but that is very, very, very close to 0, sorry, very, very close to 0, that results to a large negative number or negative infinity. So, eto na siya, going to negative infinity. Ayun. Infinity ng y kasi yan yung pababa. Yung y-axis kasi pataas at saka pababa. Yung sa x-axis, left and right. So, yung infinity ng x is padon. Doon papunta. Yung infinity, or padon. Yung infinity ng y, pataas or pababa. So, therefore, yung y natin, pag ganun siya sa negative. So, ayun yung graph natin. Very similar, as I have said kanina, to this. Pero na-shift lang siya, di ba? Naiba lang yung mga position niya. But it's still basically similar to each other. Okay? So, let us try to check that using a graphing tool. Kung tama yung analysis natin. So, the function was 2 minus, let's lagyan natin ng y para formal. 2 minus x over x minus 1. Look at that. Ayan. So, correct yung function natin. I-locate natin. Di ba asymptotic siya? X cannot be equal to 1. So, i-locate natin yung x equal to 1. Ayan siya. So, it will never approach or they will never meet. Yan. Kung titingnan nyo. Kahit i-zoom in pa natin, they will never meet. Asymptotic. Hindi tinadhana. So, how about yung yung y equal to negative 1? Itong horizontal line to which the curve will approach horizontally. So, yung y equal or f of x equal to negative 1, ayan siya. Ayan, yung green. So, ganun pa rin. It will approach, but they will never meet. I hope you are getting what I mean. Sana. Ayan, that's it. Okay, now let's continue. This time, we'll try to organize the process of graphing the functions. Okay? So if you notice kanina, ano yung mga consideration natin? Sulat ko na lang. First consideration natin is we describe the domain. This is important para makita natin ano yung restriction ng function natin. Asan siya pwedeng tumama or asan siya di pwedeng tumama. Okay? For the second consideration, we consider the intercepts kanina kung asan siya magkocross sa x and y axis. Intercepts. Pwede din natin i-consider yung symmetry ng function. Is it symmetrical to the x, to the y, or any axis? Pero to make this discussion short, kahit di na lang natin tingnan yung symmetry, I will just mention that siguro when we try to graph a certain function. Okay, di ko na lang isulat the symmetry. Number 3 are the asymptotes. What are these asymptotes? Yung asymptote is ito. Yung mga line in which the graph will just approach but will never cross. Diba? Like this. The vertical asymptote is x equal to 1. Diba? It will approach x equal to 1 but it will never cross x equal to 1 in both directions. So, x equal to 1 is an asymptote. Okay. And we also have this asymptote. This is the horizontal asymptote, which is y equal to negative 1. Because the curve will approach negative 1 but will never cross. Same as in the left direction. Okay? So, those are asymptotes. So, para mas makarelate kayo, atin-atin lang to, yung asymptotes, atin-atin lang ha. These are the friend zone. Friend zone, meaning di ka pwedeng mag-cross. Pinagtagpo, pero walang kwenta. Di tinadhana. Ayan. So, what else? Yung number 4 is maybe just to check na lang or just to inspect na lang. That would be the region. Sulat ko na lang. Number 4 na consider natin is the region to which the curve shall pass. Ayan. So, we have these 1, 2, 3, 4 consideration. Ay, tingnan natin. Let's try to solve or let's try to graph a function. So, let me retrieve that, but I don't know where. Yan. So, this is already problem 13. So, this is problem 10-13. How about para mas madali, let me describe this function na lang as y. Ayan. So, y is equal to, i-rewrite ko na lang, y is equal to x squared over x squared minus 9 kasi masyadong mahaba na yung h of x. Ayan. So, how do we graph this? Drawing tayo ng coordinates. Ito. Let me move that here, over there. Ayan. So, una natin gawin is to get the intercepts. Okay? So, number 1, solving for the intercepts. Intercepts. Okay, ano ibig sabihin ng intercepts? First, X-Intercept. For the X-Intercept, ibig sabihin, y is equal to 0. So, equate natin yung equation natin to 0. So, that means 0 is equal to x squared over x squared minus 9. So, that means kung i-transpose natin dito, may eliminate siya. So, x squared is equal to 0. Hence, x is equal to 0. Anong ibig sabihin nun? When x is equal to 0, of course, y is equal to 0 kasi intercept nga siya. So, meaning, we are expecting that the curve will cross the origin. That would be 0, 0. Okay? Next. Sorry. How about the y-intercept? For the y-intercept, the condition there is that x should be equal to 0. So, solving for that, that would be y is equal to 0 squared over 0 squared minus 9. The answer is 0. That's 0 over 9. So, 0. So, yun nga, ganun pa rin ang origin. So, wala nang iba. So, isa lang, once lang siya dadaan either of the two axes, nasa origin lang siya. Okay? Wala nang iba. So, it will never cross any of these anymore. Dito lang talaga siya dadaan. Oh, that would be 1. Number 2, ano bang pwede? Intercept. Tingnan natin yung mga friend zone. Let us try to look at the friend zones. For number 2, the asymptotes. Wrong spelling. Sorry. Asymptotes. Tama ba yung spelling ko dito? Tama. Okay. Or the friend zones. Paano kaya yung asymptotes? So, we have two asymptotes, diba? The vertical and the horizontal asymptote. Okay? Wait. Ayan. So, ano yung condition sa vertical asymptote? Sige. Unahin natin yung vertical. Vertical asymptotes. Let me move this here. For vertical asymptote, ano yung condition natin? Tingnan natin yung graph natin kanina. Ito. Ito yung vertical asymptote, di ba? Ano yung condition natin? So, ako din yung sasagot. Ako lang naman tao dito. Sa vertical asymptote, the curve will approach positive and negative infinity along y. Di ba? So, sa vertical asymptote, the value of the value of y will approach infinity. Nakuha? Kasi vertical siya. this line will go up to infinity. So y for vertical asymptote, y approaches infinity, either positive or negative infinity. Okay, so how do we solve this now? Since we have y is equal to x squared over x squared minus 9, anong mangyayari? If we equate this to infinity, or y is equal to infinity, anong ibig sabihin nito? How do we solve this? Kasi may infinity na sa equation. Ako din sasagot. We know that infinity is derived when we divide a number by 0, right? So for this to become infinity, then this must be 0, right? A number over 0 is equal to infinity. Ulit natin. So for this value to be infinity, the denominator must be 0. Hence, x squared minus 9 should be or must be 0. Okay? Therefore, x squared is equal to 9 and x is equal to positive and negative 3. So therefore, may vertical asymptote tayo na x is equal to positive 3 and negative 3. So yung positive 3 is this, negative 3 is this. So we are expecting that the curve shall not cross these lines. So let me draw these lines. This line and this line. So the curve will never cross these lines. Okay? Vertical lines. Next is the horizontal asymptote. For horizontal asymptotes, the condition is that, ito, ulitin natin, tingnan natin ulit. So horizontal asymptote, the value of x will approach infinity, either positive or negative. So therefore, the condition for the horizontal asymptote, x approaches infinity or equal to infinity. Okay? But would we solve it like this? Y is equal to infinity squared over infinity squared minus 9. So how do we evaluate that? Ako din yung sasagot. We do that by dividing all terms by the highest x with the highest degree. Okay? So the highest degree here is x squared, right? So we divide all terms by x squared kasi yung pinakamataas na degree. So we'll have x squared over x squared over x squared over x squared minus 9 over x squared. Or simply, we divide all terms by x squared. Kung ano yung pinaka-highest degree, yun yung i-divide natin. Okay? So this becomes 1 over 1 minus 9 over x squared. Now, what happened when or if or when x is equal to infinity? So we substitute infinity here. So if 9 is divided by infinity, what will happen? 9 divided by a very large number. That will approach 0, right? Number divided by infinity, number divided by 0 is infinity. Ulit. Number divided by 0 is infinity, or a very large number. So therefore, a number divided by infinity is 0. Ayan, nag-cross multiply lang. Okay? So therefore, when x approaches infinity, that would be 1 over 1 minus 9 over infinity squared. That would be 1 over 1 because this will become 0 or equal to 1. So y is equal to 1 is the horizontal asymptote. Ibig sabihin, if this is equal to 1, this is 1 unit, babaan pa natin, this is 1 unit, then the curve shall never pass this horizontal line. Ayan. So the question now is, asa na siya na magkukross? Obviously, for this particular region, nasa baba siya, no? Kasi di naman siya pwedeng gumanon dito. Kasi di siya pwedeng mag-cross dito. Diba? So meaning, the graph sa negative values, the graph will approach this asymptote, right? So we would assume, or I would assume, and I think my assumption is correct, that the graph will approach here. And the same way, ayusin ko. the graph will behave that way, this way. And also dito, di siya pwedeng mag-cross, di ba? So meaning, it will just approach it, or this line, dito. Ganyan. Okay? Then how about the other values? Remember, ano yung restriction natin? Ala, di tayo nag-describe ng domain, no? Anyway, yung domain natin, of course, x, sorry, x cannot be equal to positive 3 and negative 3. Kaya nga lumabas siya as asymptote, di ba? So, any other values pwede. So, meaning, pwede siya dito, pwede siya dito, pwede siya dito. Basta wag lang dito. So, meaning dapat meron pa siyang curve dito. Meron pa siyang curve dito. Pero, saan saan ba yung curve? Nasa taas ba or nasa baba? So, titingnan lang natin yung graph. What would be the value of y when x is a large negative number? So, pwede tayong mag-substitute or mag-evaluate substituting a certain number. Pero pwede din naman, imagine na lang natin. When x is a large number, what will happen? Or negative number. So, if negative yung value ng x, that would be negative number squared, di ba? And a large number siya. So, this will become positive over, this will become a large positive number then. Because negative, kung negative square mo, maging positive. So, maging positive over positive din dito. So, meaning, the value of y is positive. Ganito na lang. Ito yung gagawin na lang natin. When, tingnan natin kung asan siya dito mag-cross. So, when x is, ano yung mga values ng x dito? That would be less than negative 3. So, when x is less than, may problema yung pen ko. I'm sorry. So, when x is less than negative 3, ayan, I'm looking at these values that are less than negative 3. When x is less than negative 3, say x is negative 4. So, what will happen to the function? Diba, ito yung function natin, minus 9. What will happen? That will become y is equal to negative 4 squared. That would be positive. Right? Or negative 4 squared. Kahit wala ng value. Imagine na natin. So, negative 4 squared, that would be positive over negative 4 squared, that would be positive 16, minus 9, that would be positive 5. So, positive pa rin dito. So, the answer is positive or y is positive. So, therefore, dito dadaan yung graph. Di siya dadaan dito. So, I would draw that like this. Remember na asymptotic siya sa dito. So, it will just approach there. And it will also approach ganyan. Kasi di siya pwedeng mag-cross. Okay? Then, dito naman, asan yung graph dito banda? So, the values here are x greater than 3. Ba? 1, 2, 3. This is 3. So, the values here are x greater than 3. So, if we test now, when x is greater than 3, say positive 4. So, y is equal to x squared over x squared minus 9. That would be 4 squared is positive 16 over 4 squared, positive 16 minus 9, positive pa rin. So, positive over positive, the answer is still positive. So, therefore, nasa taas pa rin yung curve, wala siya sa baba. So, ganun din yung behavior niya dito. It will approach that, it will also approach that. Remember kasi yung domain natin, meron siyang values dito, ayan, meron siyang mga values dyan, meron siyang mga values. Halos sa lahat, meron siyang values, basta except dito. Di siya pwedeng mag-cross dyan. Okay? Okay, so let us check sa Desmos kung tama yung graph natin. Kung mali, ay di mali. Kawawa naman. So, let us check sa Desmos. Y is equal to x squared over x squared minus 9. So, that's the graph. So, that is very similar to what our graph was. Okay? So, ilagay natin yung mga asymptotes. X is equal to 3 and x equal to negative 3 and also y is equal to, paano yung kanina? Positive 1, right? Positive 1. Ayan. So, yan yung mga asymptotes or the line wherein it will approach. Okay? Let's try another one. Okay, let's try another one. Let me retrieve another function to graph here. Excuse me. Okay, let's try. I think that's too easy, no? That's very easy. Hanap tayo ng may challenge. Let's try this one. This one. If you look at the function, dapat observe muna natin yung function. Okay. Let's call this problem 10 dash, this is 14th problem. 10 dash 14. Okay. Tingnan muna natin yung function. In this particular function, the numerator, mas malaki yung degree kaysa sa denominator. So, meaning, pwede natin siyang i-divide. So, how about ang gagawin ko? I-graph ko na lang muna without dividing first. Gusto ko lang i-graph muna without dividing first. But, we will divide mamaya just to give more, to see what are the other properties of the graph of this function. Okay, first let us describe the domain. So, I would say, wait, the domain that x cannot be equal to 2, right? Because this cannot be equal to 0. So, x cannot be equal to 2. So, any real number except dyan sa x equal to 2. Bawal siya dyan. Okay? So, let us now, unahin natin yung intercepts. Intercepts. So, let's start with the X-Intercept. What's the condition again? That is for, the values of y is 0 for the X-Intercept. So, y is equal to 0. Just substitute. By the way, let me define this na lang as y equal to f of x para madali. Meaning, this is just y is equal to this. So, medyo ayaw ng f of x. Masyadong maraming sinusulat. So, we substitute y to 0. That would be 2x squared minus 5x plus 5. Then divide it by x minus 2. So, that would be 2x squared minus 5x plus 5 equal to 0. Right? Kasi ito, if we transpose that, may eliminate lang siya. May equal to 0 lang siya. Okay? Or, in other words, a number, 0 over any number is equal to 0. So, therefore, this must be 0. But you can look at it that way. Now, we can now factor this out. Is this factorable? That is the question. So, ano yung mga pwedeng factors dito? Let's try and error na lang tayo. 2x and x. So, what are the factors of positive 5? That's, let's try 5, negative 5, and negative 1. Let's try that. So, that would be 2x or negative 2x. So, di pwede. Di siya pwede. How about negative 1, negative 5? So, that would be negative 10x. Ito, I'm looking at this. Negative 10x, then ito is, negative x lang. Di din pwede. So, would it be possible na wala to siyang real? Wala siyang root. So, wala siyang X-intercept, no? Tingnan natin. Let's test the discriminant. B squared is, discriminant is B squared minus 4AC. If negative to siya, meaning wala siyang root. So, B squared, that would be 25 minus 4 times A is 2, C is 5. So, 25 minus 20 times 2, 40. So, negative. So, wala siyang roots. So, therefore, no real roots pala. Tama ba? 10. Tama. Yeah. So, negative yung discriminant. So, no real roots. So, no X-intercept. I-note lang natin dito na ito siya, no real roots. Okay. Di yata maklaro, pero sige na lang. Ni-describe ko naman. Then next, we'll solve for the Y-intercept. So again, wala siyang X-intercept. Yun hindi siya mag-cross sa X-axis. For Y-intercept, the condition is X equal to 0. So substitute lang natin. So that would be Y is equal to 0, 0, 0. So 5 over 2 na lang naiwan. So 5 over 2. That's 2.5. Y is 5 over 2. So therefore, it will cross 0, 5 over 2. Okay? Next. So mayroon tayong intercept. Sunod, let us look at the asymptotes. So unahin natin yung vertical friend zone. So asymptotes. So let's start with vertical asymptote. For vertical asymptote again, y is infinity kasi vertical, this is a vertical line. So if y is equal to infinity, we'll just substitute 2x squared minus 5, 2x squared minus 5x plus 5, pangit ng kakasulat, 2x squared minus 5x plus 5 over x minus, ano ba yan? X minus 2. X minus 2 equal to infinity. That means the denominator should be 0 para maging infinity siya. So, x minus 2 is equal to 0. So, therefore, the vertical asymptote is just 2, which is the restriction sa domain. Okay? The next, horizontal asymptote. Horizontal asymptote. X is equal to infinity. So, for horizontal asymptote, again, we divide all terms by the highest degree ng x. Ayan. Ang highest degree ng x is x squared, di ba? Ayan. So, i-divide natin yung lahat ng term by x squared. So, that would be 2x squared over x squared minus 5x over x squared minus 5 or plus 5 over x squared divided by x over x squared minus 2 over x squared. So, what will happen? Y is equal to 2 minus 5 over x. Ito ha. Then ito, 5 over x squared divided by 1 over x minus 2 over x squared. Now, when x is equal to infinity, look at the denominator na lang. When x is equal to infinity, magiging 0 to, di ba? That's 1 over infinity. 1 over a very large number, that's 0. Di ba? Minus 0. So, ito siya magiging 0. So, therefore, y is equal to infinity gihapon. 2 over 0. So, anong ibig sabihin ng y is equal to infinity? Sige. Ako rin yung sasagot sa tanong. Yung y equal to infinity, that is simply the x-axis. Ayan o. Sa x-axis kasi, y, o tama ba? Mali. Iba, okay. When x equal to, sorry. Maling interpretation. When x daw is equal to infinity, y is also infinity. Meaning, when x is a large number, y is also a large number. So, ano ang ibig sabihin nun? When x is a large number, y is also a large number. So, therefore, when x is large, y is large. So, ayan. Parang ganun lang siya. Meaning, yung ganyang linya lang siya. X approaches infinity as well as y approaches infinity. So, we'll be expecting na ganun yung linya na. Okay, lalabas yan mamaya. Sige, mag-graph muna tayo. Let us graph whatever we have solved so far. So, let's try to plot all these. First, yung intercept niya is wala siyang X-intercept pero meron siyang Y-intercept sa 5 equal to 2. 5 over 2 I mean. So that's 2.5. Let's say that's around here. 0, 5 over 2. So it will cross that. Then, ano pa? Yung vertical asymptote niya is x is equal to 2. So x equal to 2 is, let's say this one. That's x equal to 2, so it will not cross this line. And wala siyang horizontal asymptote. Diba? Pero, eto. Pag mga ganitong function, na yung numerator is bigger degree than the denominator, meron tayong tinatawag na oblique asymptote. When we say oblique asymptote, these are asymptotes that are neither vertical or horizontal. It could also be another curve, yung approach niya. Okay, doon na lalabas yung, or doon na natin magagamit yung ano, kasi dito parang wala pa tayong ma-solve, ano yan, di ba? Madodrawing dyan. O pwede kasing ganito, it will cross here, then ma-approach siya dito sa line, so pwede siyang ganyan, or pwede din ganun. Right? So, eto na lang. Now, doon na pwede nating we could check the quotient of this function. 2x squared minus 5x plus 5 over x minus 2. So, pwede natin siya i-long division. So, yun na yung usefulness ng long division. Or, pwede din synthetic division. I-synthetic na lang natin. So, 2 negative 5, 5, i-divide natin ng 2. Galing siya dito, x equal to 2. Okay? Ay, ba't lumabas yung Facebook? Okay, so by synthetic division, that would be 2, 4, negative 1, then 2, 4, negative 1, and negative 2. So, we have a remainder of 3. So, therefore, y is equal to, this is the quotient, and this is the remainder. 2x minus 1, then the remainder is 3 over the divisor, which is x minus 2. Ayan. So, ano ibig sabihin ito? So, ako din sasagot. Interpret natin. For very large values of x, anong mangyayari sa quotient na to? So, ako din ang sasagot. If this becomes a very large number, this will approach to 0. So, if this will approach to 0, only this will prevail. Kasi walang ano na siya, wala na siyang maniniglect na to. Diba? For positive large value of x, this will approach to 0. As well as sa negative large value of x, this will still approach to 0. So for very large values, the function will approach this. This is actually a linear equation, right? So we'll approach this line. So if you know how to graph this line, then you just graph this line. So this will be the line that the function will approach at very large values of x. Okay? Okay, nakuha ba? So, if you are familiar with sa equation ng line, y is equal to mx plus b, so pwede na lang natin i-graph diretso. Diba? Yung y-intercept natin is negative 1, eto, yung slope natin is 2. So, i-graph natin. So, yung y-intercept ng line, let me use this, blue na lang yung line. Yung y-intercept ng line is negative 1, this one. And the slope is positive 2. That would be dalawang rise, 1, 2, then isang run, di ba? Rise over run, that's slope. Rise over run. So, meaning this is the line. Okay? Ayan. Ayusin natin. More or less, ito yung line. So, that is now the oblique asymptote. Meaning, it will approach that line. Ay, parang may mali yata. Okay, may error. Ito, sorry. This is not the y-intercept, so I'm very sorry. Maybe kanina nyo pa na-observe, but this is not the y-intercept, no? Anyway, sige lang. This is not the y-intercept because sorry, the 0, 0, then 0, then this should be 5 over negative 2, which is negative dapat to. Kaya pala, parang it won't di siya ma-connect. So, 5 equal to or y is equal to 5 over 2. So negative 2 siya. So meaning, the y-intercept is right here. 0, negative 5 over 2. So if that's the case, so how would we draw the curve? Ayan. Oy, masyadong malayo yung ano. I think I could predict it now. Remember that it is asymptotic to this. It is also asymptotic to this. It will pass through this. So, restricted na yung curve natin, di ba? So, meaning, galing dito, kailangan niya mag-approach in this direction. Then dito, i-approach din niya itong line. So, meaning, gaganon siya. Okay? Tapos dito, remember, kailangan may value siya dito. So, dapat, mag-approach din siya dito, mag-approach. Andun pala yung kadugtong niya sa taas. So, doon sa taas, pag ganun siya. So, I hope you can make sense out of that. Ganun yung graph niya. Pero, hindi lang drawn into scale, so medyo malayo pa to. I think mas parehong distansya dapat dito ba? Hindi na natin na-draw in scale. But anyway, we can have a picture of, or we can have an idea of the graph. Okay. Let's try to check sa Desmos. We have y equals, the function was 2x squared minus 5x plus 5 over x minus 2. Ayan. Ayan. So that's it. So if you notice, our asymptotes were ano yung asymptote natin? Let me check that. Our asymptotes were x equal to 2. So x equal to 2. And also, the line y is equal to 2x minus 1. Ayan. So nag-approach siya sa line na yan. So if we i-zoom out this graph, meaning kung i-zoom out natin, yung makikita na lang natin are the very large value. So if you look at the graph, ayan o, 100, 200, 300, those are large values of x. Very large values of x pa. For very large values of x, ano yung nagpe-prevail? Yung nag-prevail na lang, so ako din yung sasagot, yung nag-prevail na lang is the line y is equal to 2x minus 1. So, as I have explained kanina, eto, for very large values of x, maniniglect na to because this will approach 0, nawala na siya. Then, eto na lang magpe-prevail. Same as this graph, tingnan natin, for relatively small values of x, meron pa. Diba? It still matters. Pero, for very large values of x, yung values na yon na 0 na, then yung line na lang yung nag-prevail. That line na y is equal to 2x minus 1 na lang yung makikita mong line. Okay? So, yun yung ibig sabihin nun. So, I will look for another problem. But, I hope you understood the explanation and sorry sa yung drawing kasi hindi masyadong accurate. Okay? So, that's it.